Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. I look like I've got the sun on my face or something from this light.
Oh, so
Kind of
it's not the sun though?
no, I wish. It's dark.
Oh, I know. Daylight savings,
I
more like
know.
daylight losing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Welcome to Getting
Like,
Juicy, everybody. Getting
welcome
Juicy,
everyone.
everybody. Yes. And you know what? Before I forget, because we're really going to try to start every show, I think, a little bit more consistency. So the question that I think will ponder today and ask our guest, I was thinking about this, our guest, Alicia, and I want to say Alicia Antonio, but I don't know if that is her last name, but she is Shawn Antonio's
Uh-huh.
partner, whom we have had on the show not that long ago. And we'll talk about more about her in a second. But the question I want to ask her at the end of the show, and we'll ask each other right now, is it's very in tune with her. What is juicier? Okay. Hell's Kitchen or Master Chef?
Oh my God, I thought you were gonna say something else. I love that. So that's the question you're asking.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, what's juicier, Hell's Kitchen or Shawn Antonio?
Well, too funny. Well, that could be a secondary question, but the reason why, I mean, my vote is for Hell's Kitchen, obviously.
I
Um,
think so.
but the reason why I asked that question is because our guest today, Alicia, actually represents, as far as PR goes, for some of the Hell's Kitchen past guests. So the alum guests, contestants, chefs, alumni. So those people include those that we've had on the show, who are, my God, Chef Mary Lou, right? And then we've
Yep,
got,
Mary Lou Davis, Chef Trenton Garvey.
yep, and
Yep. Well, we've also had Chef Christina on the show as well, and we have also
and
had and Nick Peters Bond.
and there's the one
And
that she represents, Corey. Corey,
yes, and Chef Corey, you cut out for a second, which is why I paused.
great. So I'm in my new office, and I'm probably, am I cutting out for you a lot?
A little bit.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yay. Tell us. Yay, new
Yay!
office. Great. I love it. I'm going to plug
You
you right.
can't always get what you want.
I'm going to plug you right into my booster. I don't know if that's going to, what that's going to do, but am I
Ooh,
okay
a
now?
booster. Yeah, you're fine right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you look.
Scary.
You look beautiful.
Oh,
You do.
Thanks, friend. I'm just saying to Hero, what a day, what a long day I had in the marketing world. So you're thinking, speaking of marketing and advertising, so I work in digital advertising, and Black Friday is coming up and Cyber Monday. Why are these still a thing? Like, geez, the biggest
BFCM is a real thing. Yeah.
I know, biggest sales of the year still, nothing to do with electronics really anymore. I mean, yes, they are, but that was like, those were like the big deal back in the day, right? But
yeah, big ticket items for sure. But
yeah,
any company wants to just clear out old products or things that are in demand, whatever it might be, just getting that additional revenue coming into the company before the year end.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's nothing to do the clients we work with have nothing to do with like old products. It's nothing to do with that. It's just people expect it. It's the biggest sale of the year, and yeah, it's just cuckoo. Like it's just crazy. And then what's going to happen now, I think, is, and am I still good? I'm not cutting out.
You're good. You're good.
Don't you love this, people? Like, we're still not in the same city, and I was going to talk about something else, but interestingly enough, I might not see you for a bit because British Columbia just had another crazy Mother Nature storm. Instead of fires like we had in the summer, burned everything to the ground. Now we've had flooding. So basically, Vancouver, British Columbia, if you look at Vancouver on a map, you guys, in Canada, right now it is completely cut off by road to the rest of Canada. So there's only like one or two roads, one in particular, that will go to the rest of Canada or even the rest of BC, a lot of the interior southern northern BC. Cut off from that's the floods just took out the roads. Like, it's insane. So
Wow.
I'm up here in the Okanagan. Did you know that, Hero?
Yeah, well, I mean, from
Okay.
you posting that information, yes, but even in Vancouver, though, I mean, even being in Burnaby, which is a suburb in the Lower Mainland, about 20 minutes, 25 minutes by subway out to from the downtown of Vancouver, just seeing like the roads flooding over, just seeing these cars going down, almost like a special effects in a Fast and Furious movie, and you just see these cars going through and boom, like so much water, almost like a mini, like basically a river. Basically, each main road, it's kind of like a river. It's kind
Oh,
of wild, actually.
absolutely. Like the highway's
Yeah,
underwater. Like in
yeah,
Abbotsford, there's bridges that have been taken out completely. So
yeah.
speaking of that, I already witnessed panic buying, grocery
Oh,
shopping up here.
wow.
Yeah. So, and then I'm like, well, guys, you know what? We can support all of our local farms and, dairy farmers, farms, all that kind of stuff. Like, we have a lot of
Yeah,
local, but yeah,
I
apparently,
know. I mean, I
go
mean,
ahead.
I mean, I'm sure the birds are loving it. The birds that can swim.
What?
Well, if
You're
there's
so,
like water coming up.
what? That is oh my God. How many times have I done this? And if you're not looking, go to the YouTube channel. Like, what? Covering my eyes? What? Why do I not understand that? The birds are loving
Well,
it?
we could just talk about like farming and stuff. So like, if you have cows or cattle or sheep and stuff, well, they can't swim. They're gonna be unhappy with like that much water saturation. Chickens, I don't think are water birds, but like I don't know, geese or I don't know, ducks. If they're like, oh my god, it's so much water. It's like, well, at least they can swim in the water and just kind of go with the flow of the wave and everything that's coming in through the rise in sea level. No. Okay. All right. Good
Maybe,
chat. Good
sorry.
talk. Good talk. I love it.
This
Hopefully
is
that
like, I just,
hopefully that woke you up.
oh, it did wake me up. Thank you. Oh my gosh. No,
You're
but it's
welcome.
like, birds, like, was just funny. Birds, okay, yeah, I guess so. But they fly. I mean, yeah, okay, they like to swim too, like ducks and stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not the
And
first thing. The first thing I would think of.
come to mind. That's why I get paid nothing, folks. That's why I get paid nothing.
Absolutely.
Just some laughter, and what the fuck kind of faces. And
Yeah,
that's, that currency is golden to me. So,
yeah.
and
It
like
is.
just before like Alicia pops on, a little stupid joke. What do ducks do to enjoy themselves?
Oh my gosh, quack off.
Yeah, they quack off.
No, is that
Quack, quack,
right?
quack, quack. Yeah.
That was a total guess, by the way.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
quack off.
Yeah, quack off. Oh my God. You were ridiculous, my friend.
Yeah.
Um,
Completely ridiculous.
oh my goodness. Well, I know that Alicia will be popping on any second. And Alicia, before she pops on, oh my goodness, the stuff that she has done, this woman, like, just, did you read a little bit about her? We'll talk to her about her background, but it's just pretty incredible.
Yes. Well, I know that she sent us some very lovely kind of cliff notes about her background and her many gifts and talents, and then being from coming from from Adelaide in Australia, and then moving to the States and getting into all the other elements, multi-time author, parent as well.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So
This is,
let's see here.
that's hilarious. Oh gosh, we're kind of out of it tonight. I feel like, hi.
Hi.
It was gonna
Hello.
be Russian roulette as to which member of my family I came in as, and apparently I came in as my daughter.
I
That's
love it.
amazing. I was wondering. But Viva is an incredible name, though. Talk about life.
Yeah, let me change that so people aren't confused. Hi, yeah, Viva.
Hi. It's a great name.
Yep,
It is.
Beautiful
Yes.
name, Alicia. We were just, chatting about well, as you know, because Alicia's actually set up a few of these podcast chats for us and with us with past Hell's Kitchen alums and chefs. So she's aware that we're already recording, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did. I made sure to come in with my face on. It's all good.
I love it. I love it. And
I love it.
Because we're recording in the evening, is that vodka or is it water?
No, it's just water, unfortunately. My day
Yeah.
isn't done yet. I gotta wait till the kid goes to bed for that.
Fair.
Yes, absolutely. I know. So you got them underneath the storage of your couch and you're ready to pull it up with the side table and ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Secret
Yeah.
storage.
I love it.
We all got
I love
them.
it. There's more references than to Down Under. Just be like, nope, the vodka's down under, the drinks are down under, the kids go down under, and then we go down under.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh.
Oh, thank you, mate. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
It's starting already. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, Hero, would you like to do the honors of introducing our lovely guest?
Yeah, absolutely. We have Alicia Antonio on today. Rachel it's funny, we say this every time. Rachel gave a bit of a kind of introduction to yourself. And it's funny because you don't know what we said, but all good things, all good and celebratory and a little bit exploited, but that's how we do it. But you know what? Just kind of just showering our love, our juiciness, our love and embrace to you for connecting us with so many incredible people. Also about your accolades and your cliff notes that you shot with through us. So multi-time author, mother, very much versed in lots of things with marketing and media and business management development in different elements of that word itself. And also the beautiful wife and beautiful partner of our former guest, Shawn Antonio, who we had on the show and who you very graciously said that would be a great guest and has been not just a great guest, but a fantastic human being and a support to Rachel and myself, which is absolutely selfless and just completely a reflection of who he is as a human, which we are very grateful to have both of you as part of our community and part of our network. So if there's anything you wanted to add to that, please feel welcome to.
Thank you. Yeah, my husband's stupid. In the most loving way. Like he's just, now, but he's not human. He's a special kind of something. So I call him the salt collector. He just goes around scooping people up and I'm sure he told you, but he knows millions of people. You know what I mean? He used to be a club promoter in Hollywood, and he's just so naturally infectious. Like, being a life coach is like just so suited to his aura. It's amazing. So I'm glad I was able to give you the gift of Shawn Antonio.
And the gift is still given. It keeps giving because I get those messages. Like if he knows that many people, he must spend how many hours in the morning does he spend or during the day just like WhatsApping random? Because he does it to me like once in a while, just randomly.
Yeah.
Hey, oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, he's on the phone usually. I mean, the earliest he'll start is about 9. He's normally on the phone for about 8. So, like he graciously agreed to take over parenting duties for an hour so I could come talk to you. But yeah, no, he's on the phone all day. But I mean, it's very natural for him. Like I said, like doing that promoter thing, even then that he would spend 8 hours on the phone during the day, just texting. And then we'd go out to the club and then he'd be networking and like he's just born to connect with people. And so, whatever cracks and crevices he has in the day, he's like, all right, who do I need to speak to? And like, he's really good too with, energy and kind of figuring out like who needs to hear from him on that day. Like he's really good at kind of tuning into that. So it's a gift.
Well, and it's not, this is not all about him at all, but it was, but you saying that it was so, I don't know if he told you, it was so random. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I was having a horrible day. It was like the worst day I've had in quite a long time. He randomly shot me a message to ask me how I was doing that morning. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Just because you asked, actually, I'm not doing very well today. Like it was just, anyway, so he definitely has a gift for that.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. He's great at that.
Incredible. But we want to hear about you because
I know. Like, I mean, like fuck Shawn. Like we want to talk to you. We're about you right now. So
well, And I started there because particularly, you know, if people had listened to that podcast, I'd be like, wow, that dude is so much energy. And so like, I'm not that. He and I really balance each other out. And the funny thing is, in a lot of ways, like we're the same person, we're just expressed differently. So like I'm the, you know, I'm the shadow of the night, I'm the stealth, I'm the behind the scenes, I'm the Wizard of Oz. It's you're lucky to get hold of me.
Oh.
I'm normally doing magic in the background is what I do.
And so what does that,
you know, that's amazing. Yeah.
what does that entail? What does that look like? So what do you like? We'll go back in the past maybe as to what kind of brought you to where you are today. But what are you doing these days?
Just anything and everything that I can get my hands on, basically. But you know, and obviously you gave a background, but I like to say that my purpose is storytelling. You know, so like that started very early in life, finding my passion in acting and theater, and that segued later into writing. You know, like for me, performing arts and creative endeavors are really, really important and will always be part of my life. But you know, sometimes that sort of sways into the business world too. So like it started with me taking over doing all Shawn's marketing with his business. You know, I started doing PR with all the Hell's Kitchen chefs and some other clients that I have. You know, as long as I'm telling a story and conveying emotion and communicating, so kind of like Shawn in a way, like that's my vibe. So, but yeah, there'll be like, you know, in Alicia's world, there's 15 projects at any given time, and I can never dedicate enough attention to any one of them, but I also can't say no. So
because like are you the kind of person that feels like if you say no, it's like that, I hate the terminology FOMO, but is it that, do you feel that way? Like you have okay.
No. Shawn's FOMO, I'm JOMO. He's jumping on the JOMO thing, like, but I'm all like, no, you have at it. Like I'm just here in my own world. But I'm very much I figured out this year, probably like a lot of people through TikTok and Instagram, that I'm like ADHD AF. Like I had no idea my whole life. And then I've started looking at this stuff, and it sort of triggered for me with my daughter, because Zoom schooling was an absolute nightmare and she totally broke down. But I started seeing some of these things, and I'm like, oh, maybe she has some trouble like processing instructions and like with the tension and movement and stuff. And so I looked into it, and then I started reading these books and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm like classic ADHD, but like I didn't know that. Like no one picked it up in me. Like my school didn't, my parents didn't. And I get that like the understanding of where that has gone to now is in a very different place, but I'm just like, oh, this makes sense, because like my brain is constantly like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna jump in this, and then I had to focus. So back to your point about the fear of missing out, hell no, because like I'll go on tunnels of focus. You know, I don't think Cody's been on yet, but one of my chefs, Cody, like he calls it the other 9 to 5. So like I kick into gear at 9 p.m. and I'll work through till 5 a.m. in the morning. Wow. And I love that. Yeah. I love the night. I love fact that nobody can bother me, you know, like particularly my child, bless her, I love her. You know, like it's just, I feel like that's the creator's realm too, you know.
It is. Yeah, you think about think about like writers or anything like that, or musicians, or it's like, you know, they get up at 2 p.m. and go to bed at I don't know, whatever hour of the night. I just want to dive right in and ask you, how the heck did you get involved in PR with the Hell's Kitchen? Because it's like, I feel like are almost all of your clients Hell's Kitchen?
The lion's share of them, because this is, you know, a side gig, and I kept saying, no, I'm not taking another one, and then I would take another one because I just, you know, I love to. But I've got some other people too, some entrepreneurs, other independent authors, people in casting, things like that. So it's still all very kind of creative in one way or another, but the lion's share of them is the Hell's Kitchen crew. So Corey, who you had on, she's one of my best friends. So so she obviously told us she was on Hell's Kitchen, and she sort of came to me and was like, hey, you know, this is happening. But what's kind of interesting is, and I had assumed that the network would really pour a lot of PR into supporting these guys, and they don't really. They're more concerned with like network promotion and stuff. So, you know, when they all had their meeting with Fox, they're like, Fox is like, who's your rep? And they're like, do we need one? Do it. So basically all of them are sort of encouraged to go out and find their own reps, which, you know, not all of them can or are in a position to, or, you know, some of them come from small towns. because actually I had to say no, once I took Trent on, there were 3 more from season 20 who were like, hey, we need help. And I'm like, okay, I'm at my limit. So I couldn't do it. And I put them onto some people that I knew. But it's tough because some of them are from like really small towns in the middle of America, and you're not going to find a great publicist there necessarily. You know what I mean? Because it's not like there's a lot of connections or media necessarily. So it can be hard for some of them for sure. But that's really how it started. And I remember saying to Corey, like I sat down and I did my homework. And I'm like, I shouldn't do this because I'm in the middle of writing my trilogy, but I'm gonna because I don't want, I just didn't want anybody else to like do kind of the wrong thing by her. Like I knew exactly really what she needed to get to where she's going. And then, Cody followed, Mary Lou soon after, and then Trenton. So it was just a snowball effect. And now I've got my little crew of chefs who very willingly will cook up food for me, and I love it.
I've seen pictures. That's awesome. They're all just amazing. So they're such amazing humans, like every one of them we've had are just so genuine and real and kind and appreciative, and it's such a treat. Yeah. Absolutely.
And they're winners, baby.
They are. All of them in my eyes. All of them. I mean, they're all doing really, really great things. You know what I mean? And they're all so different too, which was kind of what was really fun working with them, because it's not like I'm trying to pitch the same person out to different things. It's like they've all got completely different vibes going on, completely different audiences. What they want to do. There's some similarities and some crossover, but for the most part, they're all, doing different things. It's great. I talk to them all like every week. They're good people, man.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Real people make time for people like me and Rachel. And I don't say that in a conceited way, but it's the sense of, your energy attracts energy. So I'm a firm believer in the people that we cultivate, the relationships that we cultivate, whether if they come to us, we go to them, or it's a little bit of both. That's the reflection that we put out there. So the kind of people that we've had on the show, regardless if they're our best friend next door or if they're from somewhere that we don't even know, from a network or a television program or whatever, at the end of the day, they're just people. They're just people. And at one point, they may have been even more ordinary people than they might be now. Right. So we want to take that mask off of people and be like, yeah, that's great that you do all that. That's great that you know that. It's not that we don't care about that, but everyone knows about that. We want to know about the things that, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite book? What's the kind of song you listen to at 2 a.m. if you can't go to sleep and you just need to feel like you can smile or get knocked out without having a drink, that's the kind of shit we want to unpack. Right. And that shows in the people that you've connected us to. And we're excited to continue connecting because it seems like that the production is back in casting and they want to come back, which I've heard, if that's correct.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising in the sense that, I know that both the crews from both seasons, they didn't really know. I think it was really up in the air. Like producers had said, oh, we don't know if it's coming back. And even up until really the last few weeks of season 20, we didn't know. But yeah, they are casting. I think they've committed to at least 2 more seasons.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, look, Gordon's a beast, like his media, I feel like his media empire in a lot of ways is more valuable and important than his restaurants, even though he still keeps opening more restaurants, and I really respect the man for kind of diversifying his passions and doing different things. You know what I mean? I think it's really awesome. And I think it's a great platform. I think, Hell's Kitchen still has appeal. I know that something that's been really interesting for all 4 of the guys has been adjusting to the level of fame, because even now, and you can kind of tell when the show hits in a new country, because then suddenly a bunch of like Filipino people will be messaging them on Instagram like, hey, I'm watching the show, and they're like, oh, in the Philippines, but it's really sweet. And I think that people find them really relatable because they're not TV stars, and I think that's true in most reality, but there's something about cooking shows in particular, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like people really, really relate to it. Actually, I was talking to Trent today because he just started at Gordon Ramsay Steak at the Paris. Yeah, so he's been there a couple of weeks now, so he's just finding his feet, but he just can't wrap his head around how many people come in and cry.
What?
Yeah, he's just like, Alicia, he's like, he's like, every night it's like 3 or 4 tables of people just in tears because it's me, and he's like,
oh my God.
And I love him so much. He's such a sweetheart, and he's actually, and those are the kind of stories, like, I mean, he was telling us stories about how his grandfather Cooked with the Colonel, like of KFC, and the story, like just, those little nuggets of gold that, you wouldn't typically hear of in a quote unquote normal interview. Like, it's just so great to get so deep with him. So that's really awesome to hear. And how, I mean, he only had just been on a plane for the first time, I think, because of Hell's Kitchen.
Well, for the audition, he'd never been to Arkansas, Missouri, he'd never seen a palm tree, and he had just come to LA. Was it around the time that he talked with you guys? I think it was. And he saw the ocean for the first time.
Yes.
And my mind is blown because I'm like, God, you've never seen the ocean? Like, that's crazy, but this is the life. And again, I think that's particularly with him, that's why he's got such a strong appeal, like in the Midwest, because people kind of see themselves in him, and they're like, oh, they're really invested in his journey. And it's not just a restaurant too. Like, when he first got to Vegas, he was hiking out by Hoover Dam and someone recognized him. He booked a haircut and the barber recognized his voice on the phone. And it's just like, every day he's just like this, and it's so sweet to watch because, and same for all four of my chefs. Like, they all really deserve, the recognition for their talent and what they're doing, and just, people appreciating them and continuing to follow and invest in their journey, which I think is really cool.
So how do you, what kind of a part do you, as someone who's in PR, just educate us, what are, not like what are your duties, but how do you lift them up, or what do you do for them exactly?
Well,
I'm curious.
And like I said to all of them when I started working with them, like, I see myself more as a brand manager than a publicist, because if you go to any, typical PR firm, they're going to charge you minimum $4,000 a month just to send out batch press releases, and I know, because I used to be an influencer. I don't even think I sent you that. I used to be a micro influencer for a while when I was mommy blogging. So I still get press releases from publicists, wanting me to review baby products and all this stuff. And it's just, I know that I didn't look at 90% of it. Like, a lot of it's just white noise. And so, in some ways that really informs my approach to publicity, because I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I will go and do those blanket pitches, but mostly I'm going to target it. And so I'm going to filter my list and say, okay, cool. Like, what I really want to do with Corey is X, and what I really want to do with Mary Lou is this, and what I'm going to do with Cody and Trenton is completely different. So I'm not, it's a very personalized approach. But again, publicity is really such a small part of it, because and what I've seen, especially because I've been in the entertainment industry, or I'm still in the entertainment industry as an actor, I understand the machine. And so, like, if you don't capitalize, on that interest and that public awareness when you have it, it's gone. You talk about that 15 minutes of fame, and that's it. So a lot of what I do is strategy with them and saying, okay, cool. Like, if this is where you want to go, this is what we have to do. And so, a lot of my regular communications with them are more about like, okay, cool. Have you checked your numbers on YouTube? Like, have you hit your monetization yet? I want you to hit 100K followers on Instagram. This is how we're going to do it. And when you do, we need to do this post. So it's about guiding and molding them into the actions to take to get somewhere. And a lot of it's really mundane. You know what I mean? Social media analytics, all that kind of stuff. But again, because my background is marketing, it really comes from that overall branding idea and saying, okay, let's mold your brand this way and go in that direction. And so sometimes they'll come to me and say, well, I got an offer for this, and we talk it out, and I go, okay, cool, that might be $500 or $1,000 in your pocket today, but it actually prevents you from doing XYZ in the future. So I don't think it's a smart plan just to take it because you've been offered it. In the long term, that's going to hit your pocket or where you want to go. So and again, this is just like, I'm a mama bear. Like, I've been in this world, in this ecosystem, and I know how it goes, and I know how people try and take advantage. And so really, it's just, I see myself as a guide in a lot of ways.
Well said.
I love that. Hero, go. I'm like taking over a lot of the questions because I'm so curious, but go ahead. Yeah. I have so many more questions.
Well, no, and just to be completely candid, it's funny because Rachel's like, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling after work today. You might need to carry this conversation. And I'm like, perfect. I'm good. I'm good with whatever you need. And now you've woken her up. Would you like to talk, Rachel?
No, it's just because, I totally, it was true.
I love the banter that you two have. It's fabulous. Like, we have such a great chemistry.
Oh, thank you. Us two little queens, we try.
he already made me literally put my hands over my eyes before you came on about something he said. So you'll have to go back and listen to that.
Okay, I will watch
Yeah.
it.
But no, you know what? This podcast lifts me up, right?
It
So
does.
you do things that lift you up, and you might think that you are exhausted and too tired and whatever, but as long as you're doing those little things that will lift you up, then you got to continue doing them. But anyway.
Anyways, that's nice, Rachel. So one thing that you were mentioning about being in a writer as well and finishing
Yes.
your trilogy, I didn't understand what YA was short for. Is that a kind of genre or
Young adults.
young adult? Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that. I myself am not much of a reader just based on my cognitive wiring, but I would love to know more about what started that for you and what inspired you to continue making a trilogy. And was it meant to be a trilogy, or did it make sense to expand it to become one, and all the stuff in between? Whatever you want to share.
Fabulous question, first of all. How long have you got?
As long as you have.
Good point about the cognitive wiring thing. Like I said, since I figured out that I'm ADHD, like I'm all into neuroscience now, and I'm like, oh, I just can't do certain things, and that's okay. You know what I mean? I think
Yes, Queen. Yes.
I feel like if most humans knew that, life would be so much easier. Like just in terms of the way that they process stuff.
Oh my God, so much.
Okay, so why am I writing a YA trilogy? This is a story that I started in 2004 when I still lived in Australia and I had my corporate job. Who was I with at the time? I worked for an ice cream company at the time. And this was an outlet for me. And how do I come up with stories? So I get like flashes of inspiration, or because I'm quite filmic too. So I'll see a scene, maybe like I have an impression of like an open, I see it more as a movie and then I start writing it. So I just had an idea for this opening scene and I kind of just hooked onto that and started writing it, but it didn't go anywhere and it didn't feel organic at the time. I was in a terrible relationship. I was working 80 hours a week. And so I was just like, I couldn't hold on to it, but it was there. And then in 2019, November, so like a couple months, like 8 weeks maybe before sort of COVID started trickling through. I was putting Viva to bed, and she very much like needs Shawn or I to put her to sleep still. Like she very much is like, I want you to lie with me. And we're like, okay, that's cool. So we take turns doing that. But we call her the vortex because quite often we're like not tired at all, and then you lie down with her and then suddenly you've gone off to other planets. Like she just sucks you into this like crazy sleep and it's amazing. But quite often I'll go to these weird places and have weird dreams and stuff. So I was lying with her and then suddenly, like, honestly, this story just came to me, not in completion, but like the general outline of it. And I realized that it was the story from 2004, but kind of like flipped on its head, and like I'd found my way with it. Like it had sort of sat there for that long, and it had kind of turned into something else that was fabulous. And I felt like it was a story that needed to be told. I read this really great book from Elizabeth Gilbert recently called Big Magic. So she's the one who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. I don't know if you've read it or if you want to listen to it, Hero, but
no, not yet.
It's fabulous. It's about the creative process. So she talks about it from a place of writing, but I think it really applies to anyone. And I had actually talked to the chefs about reading this too, because I'm like, look, you guys are creative with food and influencing. You need to like understand this. But she talks about ideas kind of floating in the universe and finding an owner. And so like if you get an idea that's yours, like that's where inspiration comes from.
Right.
Really kind of that resonated with me because that's definitely how this story started. So that first book, I knew it was a trilogy. There's all these trippy spiritual elements, and like I'm so complex, like my brain is crazy. So like there's so much stuff in the layers that like I don't even, sometimes I'm reading it back, I'm like, oh, I put that in there. I didn't even see that the first time. I'm not even present to it. So the first book, there's a lot of I'm setting a lot of the tone for the later two books, but it's almost like, what's it like? I would say kind of like Divergent meets not Planet of the Apes, Space Odyssey.
Oh yeah.
meets who knows what. It's a space opera, dystopian, end of the world something.
I love
Yes. Oh
I
my God. I
love
love
that.
Yeah. So the first book is written. I wrote that in 5 months.
Wow.
And then part of me being very heavy in publicity is avoiding doing all the edits that my editor has told me I need to do.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, did you go to school for writing? How did you get in? There's so many facets of you that's just so fascinating.
I know,
Like
it's
the acting and the writing and like, it's amazing.
I didn't go to school for writing. I just did high school English, but I've always been writing, and I think my journey is probably not so dissimilar from other people in the sense that, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I wanted to be an actor, like, categorically did not get into acting school. Acting school is very difficult. Got very, very close a couple times, but didn't. And then by the time it came around again, I was making like $40,000 a year and I was 19 and I had a very good job. And I'm like, why am I now going to quit that? And, was buying a house, all this stuff. So, so I didn't go down that path. Ended up doing my marketing degree over 7 years at the time that I was working for corporations at night, because it just made sense. But I don't know, I didn't find my way. I wasn't definitive, like, I'm going to do this. And I had a few of those, like, I was like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a journalist, but then I went and figured out what they were about, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing that. That's terrible. Who would do law? There's no
right.
So I just, all these things that I thought were definitive didn't turn out to be, and so I was just kind of wandering aimlessly with a very cushy job until one day I'm like, screw it, I'm going to LA and I'm pursuing my dream. So it was really about acting. The writing thing was totally a segue because our daughter was born in 2015. She has a lot of health problems, so we're at the hospital quite a lot. So I'm like, cool, I can't be running all over town with auditions at the drop of a hat when I've got to go see a neurosurgeon at 2:00 or whatever. So so that was really the choice. So I started the blog initially. I grew a following pretty quickly. Like, it was never massive, but like, I was out there with all the big LA mommy bloggers and going to events and doing all the stuff that they do. I had and people just really liked my style because it's very, like, blunt and honest and kind of to the point, a lot of satire. Then I started writing for a media outlet in Australia that I love, sort of by coincidence, which was great. And then I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be writing books. Like, I just put it off for the longest time. And it was actually an interview that Stephen King had done in the 90s, I think, that gave me permission to really start, because the problem for me is I don't write classically. So they'll say, like, you're either an outliner or you're a pantser, and I'm a pantser, which means I let the story come to me. Whereas a lot of more authors, not all of them, but a lot of them will write an outline and stick to it and plan out where the progression is going. And I can't do that to save my life, because I don't feel like that's how creativity works, but I understand why other people do it. And so for the longest time, I just thought I couldn't be a writer. I thought, you don't write like you should write. You're not technical at all. So you just don't get to tell stories. And then I saw this interview that he did, which gave me such freedom, because he was talking about another author that he's like, oh, I know this guy who writes the last page first. He's like, why would you do that? The destination, like, then there's no space for it to go in different directions. I was like, holy shit, like, he writes like me. And if Stephen King can do it, so that's what gave me permission to do what I've always wanted to do. And now, I have 4 books.
I love it.
Amazing.
Yeah. You've just broken down so many little things, because you talked about a little bit about Australia, a little bit on, what was the catalyst, I guess, to you moving to LA. And so have you been in Los Angeles since 2009, I think it was?
Yeah. So I came out here 2009 for pilot season. So, like, early in the year. I met with casting agents. I did a boot camp. I really just wanted to see 2 things. Like, 1, did I like LA? And 2, did people in LA think I had what it takes to be an actor?
Right.
So I did that. I was well received. I got great feedback from casting agents. They're like, yes, you can definitely work here. And I've been working professionally as an actor since I was 18, in Australia. But there's just, there's not a lot of opportunity. There's a real small ceiling for actors. And I assume in Canada, it's probably a similar kind of way, even though your industry is booming.
I think No, I think it's true because I've got to know a couple people that are in Hollywood North, as they
Mhm.
call
Yeah.
Vancouver specifically,
Yep.
and in the industry. And the thing is, like, yeah, it's booming, but a lot of still hire a lot of American
Yeah.
actors, right?
That, that,
So
that's the thing, and honestly, once I got here, this is the crazy thing. I was here and I was auditioning for Australian commercials. So that got really mad because I'm like, God, I was at home. I couldn't get an audition to save my life. And then I come here, suddenly I'm valuable because I'm in LA and I'm auditioning for Australian nationals that are shooting in London and casting out of LA. I'm like,
Oh,
where's the support? You know what I mean? And so that's why you see all these people like Chris Hemsworth and Kate Blanchett and all these
yeah,
people who are very successful in Australia, you reach that limit and then you're like, okay, cool, I'm making 70 to 100,000 a year, which like as a working actor in Australia, that's what you can expect. It's like, what now? So I just decided to circumvent all that and come straight here. It took me about 6 months to kind of put all my paperwork together to get here on a green card, not on a green card, on an O1, which is a talent visa.
okay.
It got approved in October and I'd moved here by December. I was like, I'm out, bye.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And you've been here ever since, right?
Yeah. So I gave up my very nice job at Jack Daniels to come be a starving actor.
Jack Daniels with the liquor.
Yeah. that was my last real job I had in 2008.
Wow.
Wow.
And what were you doing for them? Was it marketing as well?
I worked as like a territory manager and a key account manager. So
Yeah.
liquor sales to on-premise, off-premise, doing promotions, marketing, stuff like that.
Yep. I hear you. I actually live in the Okanagan in BC is like kind of like Napa Valley. So it's the wine region. We have a lot. I did work for a big wine company for a bit. So I understand that. But I'm just wondering, because going back to like entertainment industry and, now you're in PR, you're writing, you are acting, you're doing all these things with social media. How do you feel, has social media kind of killed a lot of that, or is it helping it? Is it hindering it? Is it making it more difficult? Because for example, like I'll just put it out there, like with us with our podcast, I mean, everyone seems to have a podcast these days now. But I just can't really tell like whether social media, if like, do you need to be so prevalent? Do you need all the followers? Is that really important? Or like, it's so confusing.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
The pitfall is a lot of influencers buy followers, which I'm strongly against, and I tell all my people not to do. A, because it can get you kicked off the platform, but B, companies are a lot smarter these days, and they can tell based on your engagement if you've got a lot of fake followers. Yeah, it is a necessary evil. Unfortunately, I think it's a double-edged sword too, in the sense that, to your point, I think it's killed a lot of the entertainment industry because now you've got all these people creating content. You've seen the power shift from traditional studios to streaming platforms to YouTube to short form content. So it's really destabilized the industry on one hand, but on the other hand, what it's done, it's made it a bit more democratic, in my opinion. It's given access to people that wouldn't necessarily have the door shut in their face, probably. You know what I mean? So like anybody can become a TikTok creator, and if you put the time in and you know the rules of the game, like you can blow yourself up as long as you have interesting content. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of white noise out there too. But the other thing too is like, you got to remember, like, influencers as it is, and I left because I found it toxic, and this was even before it got really toxic, in my opinion. This was in the early days, but like I was in the top 13% of influencers who made money, and I made maybe a couple of grand a year if I was lucky. You know what I mean? Like,
wow, yeah.
Most influencers are doing it either for product or for nothing. They don't realize there's all this opportunity, and then you've got the top 1% who are making millions on social media. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity, but you got to know your niche, and I think you got to know where you're going and what you want, and also just kind of not buy into it and know that it's a means to an end in some ways.
Absolutely. Now, do you feel living in LA how has it affected actors, or is it more competitive? Do you feel like there's, just because it almost seems like almost anyone can do it, I think people are finding maybe they have more not more power, but they feel feel more confident now because it is, easy to kind of put out content now.
I think it's definitely made it harder for like smaller actors. Like we have a lot of friends who are actors who are just acting, the kind of people that you would see on a bunch of shows but don't know who they are, right up to like A-list celebrities. Like we know a lot of people in the business. I think, when you're talking about people who are A-list or people who've been on television a long time, like their jobs are pretty safe. They work pretty consistently. They're still going to be on the network shows, which are now typically Netflix shows or streaming platform shows. But it's for the people who are up and coming into the issue, because now what's happening in the stories I'm hearing, and again, because I've taken myself out of acting for now, but I will go back to it because you can be 94 and start an acting career. But, my job ain't going anyway. But yeah, I'm hearing a lot of people now, if they're middle of the road, they're coming in and they're going to give the part to someone that has 1 million followers on TikTok or on Instagram because they're buying the audience. And I think that's a shame, because I think that takes the art out of it, because I know some incredibly talented people who never go anywhere in their career and deserve way more. And some very untalented people who go places because they know how to play the game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that whole process of popularity versus talent, or talent versus visibility, it's so much in every industry that we're in, and show business is probably one of the most cutthroat that you can go for. And in some ways, not turning it on another subject, but even in terms of being a personality in yoga, fitness, and wellness, or self-care, or self-empowerment, vulnerability, anything that's about personal development. I mean, visibility and sponsorship and followership makes a big difference. And me and Rachel continue to have these ongoing discussions about where do we draw the line about being strategic and being effective in marketing and promotion, but at the same time, remaining authentic, and also in a way where it's tangible for what our capacities are. Because
totally. And you know what? And that's a good point. You talking about the authenticity. That's why I walked from it. Because the events I was going to, right, mommy blogger events in LA, and look, it's fun. I get to go to a brunch and dress up and be showered with gifts from whoever, whatever brand. But at the end of the day, one, there's this sort of tacit understanding that if you're doing that, then they expect you to write a nice review or post about them. And I didn't always have nice things to say about brands. You know what I mean? And I'm not one to be inauthentic that way just because someone's paying me, or because I'm getting free gifts. But a lot of the other people didn't care. They just wanted to be in the scene and whatever. And again, that I'm not hating on them at all for that. I understand it because the pressure is very real. You know what I mean? When you're talking about big, like I did a campaign with Gerber Baby, so you're talking about big companies with big, money. And if you start going around doing a lot of negative reviews, then you're not going to be in demand as an influencer. But then that's, in some ways, I feel like that's self-defeating. So it just felt really inauthentic to me. And the demands were very heavy. And like I said, because I've worked in marketing and I've worked for these big brands, like I know what Jack Daniels is spending on marketing. I know what traditional marketing costs. I know how much they're funneling into television ads. And you're going to tell me you're going to pay me $50 for 4 hours worth of work? Jump off a cliff. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm like, the companies are as much to blame for this because they took advantage of the fact that suddenly all these people are like, I'll do it for a hat,
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm like, you're talking about 4 or 5 hours of work, sometimes 10 hours, like some of the stuff that Mary Lou is doing now, because she's really heavily segued into that influencer category.
Yes.
Like, and I said to her in the beginning, I'm like, hey, don't take product. You know what I mean? Like, it's very tempting. And especially when you're new, because you're like, I'll take whatever I can get. But at the end of the day, you have this many followers which is worth X amount of dollars. You know what I mean? This is your influence. This is, they know they're good. Even if they only pay you $1,000, they know they're getting a good deal, because that might be 50 or 100,000 if they're going television or more. You know what I mean? So it's a fine line. Companies are definitely have been irresponsible in sort of propping up this industry of inauthentic people, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it just comes down to like knowing your worth, right? Know your worth, stand behind that. But yeah, it's bloody hard. It's hard, especially if all you're hearing is that is the only way you are going to make it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And if that is, and for like, just to bring it back to us as well for a second, like we both, I don't teach yoga that much anymore, but Hero very much does. And it's similar, like when you're getting into the yoga industry for the first time, you're expected that you're going to be teaching what's called karma classes. So free classes just to get your foot in the door, which is totally unfair.
Yeah. Oh, it's abusive.
Yeah.
It's abusive,
So
in my opinion.
Anyway, yeah, it's crazy.
But to your point, to both of your points, it doesn't matter whether it's yoga or acting or writing, you'll find this stuff everywhere, what I mean? And I think that really is what it boils down to, is knowing your worth. And it is saying, okay, this is what I'm worth, and you will pay it or don't and walk away. But so many people are so afraid to say it. And I am not that person. A lot of people, don't like me for that. And I love it. But I'm like, no, that's a no. I'm not. If you're not going to pay me, I'm not here for it.
That is brave, because whenever I think of people living in Los Angeles, I just think that they're very brave human beings. It's like LA kind of scares me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love it. I love it more than being at home, which sounds terrible. I love my home, but like I just couldn't find the level of creative energy that I needed to sustain myself. I miss my family. I miss the beaches. I miss the food and wine. Like, obviously there's a lot of things that I miss, but in terms of like pursuing my passion, my purpose, like that, I need the energy that's here, I love this city, but at the same token, I think that, it's what you make of it. And Shawn and I have curated the people around us in the sense of magnetizing, like you were talking about earlier, right? So we've created our tribe, but some people don't know how to do that, and they get caught up in it. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to fall into that trap, because people will talk you up until they kick you when you're down. And I've seen lots of people leave in the time that I've been here. And particularly during the pandemic too, a lot of actors have just thrown it in after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They're like, I don't want to do it anymore. Now it's shut down. Like, I'm not bartending, I'm not acting, so I'm going to go, so it's the face of it's definitely changed for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what, like, if the face of it's changed, how are things open there, or what's going on in Los Angeles?
They are now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they are now. So, so like our friends who are still in the business, there's definitely less auditions going around for sure. But, like productions are pretty, they're pretty safe spaces for the most part, because, they're worried about liability issues. And then, and specifically because the insurance companies, I think a lot of the insurance companies went bankrupt, having to pay out on policies because COVID wasn't a thing. So therefore it wasn't excluded. And then a lot of productions shut down and they had to pay out on that. And we're talking about millions of dollars, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of the companies went bankrupt. So now the policies exclude COVID protection. They're like, there is no such thing as COVID protection for film. So as a result, you have to be vaccinated. You have to be, you have to have negative COVID tests. You have to be masked up. Especially to protect the talent, because now you've got talent who are going back to doing those really intimate scenes and walking and talking like we're living in a real world, and so they have to be unmasked. So it's putting the pressure on crews and stuff to really protect the on-screen talent for sure.
That's true.
Kidding. It's amazing in terms of, I think it's a great segue when you're talking about generation and lifestyle, things that we live in, things that where we've come from. And you mentioned being back from Adelaide and going into LA. And so, as you know about our format, we love getting to know a little bit about like the earlier days in our guests' lives and what they've been through. And so if you take yourself back to your early childhood and then you go through your progression, what were the steps that kind of were moments that got you to where you are today?
The defining moment for me as an actor, I was 7 years old. We took a field trip to the State Theatre Company and saw a play, The Gwobbles and the Colour Keeper or something like that. But ironically, a very famous Australian chef was in it because she was also an actor. She was, where is she from? Ghana. I think she was from Ghana. So she was very African, very loud, amazing personality. And so she was in the show. And I just remember sitting on the edge of my seat in the dark in a theater. It was my first time in a theater, just being entranced by this storytelling in a play. And I just I never realized until that point that was a job, you know, that people actually went and entertained people. And I just remember being like, I want to do that, you know. And I also remember too, because the story really was about racism is what it was about. And I remember learning something and being moved emotionally and understanding something. And I inherently knew that that's what I want, you know, like I wanted to make people feel something.
Mhm.
So that was the defining point for me as an actor. I was very shy as a kid, you know, I didn't really have much of a voice. And so being on stage gave me that freedom. But even so, still, like you know, it wasn't, again, the industry's not big. It wasn't clear cut. It's not like LA where every stage mom is putting their kid in drama classes. Like I didn't really know how to go about it. So it wasn't until I was 18. I was modeling actually first before I got into acting, which is, you know, that's a whole other world. And you know, don't recommend it. And so I won like some acting courses with my agency, which, you know, went on to be my agency, and that was kind of the start of it for me. And I did a bunch of courses with them. They represented me. You know, I worked a lot, mostly in theater, because I like it better than film, and also just there wasn't a lot of opportunities. But you know, I did TV shows, I did commercials, I did movies when they came along, and yeah, it just wasn't enough. And I knew I always had kind of this deep inner feeling like you just have to be in LA, you know, you have to get there. And so yeah, it was just sort of really in the deep of my misery. Like I have depression, and I say it like that because it's like it's genetic in my family on both sides. Like it's, you know, can't escape it. And so, but I'm very clear about it. And, you know, like I've been in therapy for years, and like I've had certain episodes. I know my triggers. Like I wouldn't say it's under control, but like I know myself. But I was in a very, very dark place right at the time. I was in when I was working at Jack Daniels. So I had this great life, made a lot of money, had a house, my relationship, dogs, everything, could do whatever I wanted, and was just still miserable. And I just was like, this can't be it, you know, this can't sort of be all there is to it. And so I realized I would give up everything just to kind of be happy and do that one thing that gave me joy, which was entertaining people and, you know, informing them and making them feel something. So I decided to go for it. It ended my relationship, but I needed leverage out of it because it had not been working for a long time, and my ex had been suicidal for most of the time we were together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then so he took his life about a month after we broke up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Jeez.
that was definitely a defining period of my life. But you know, he wasn't compatible with life, is what I like to say. Because people, whenever I drop that, people are like, oh, that's terrible, I'm so sorry. I'm like, me too. But at the end of the day, like, he wasn't happy. He hadn't been happy for a long time. I don't think that people who are really that miserable should be forced to endure life. I think it should be a joyous thing. You know, I recognize that when I have my moments, that's what it is. It's a moment that it's brain chemistry, and I just need to correct myself and I'm fine. Like I don't ever feel completely lost. But he wasn't one of those people that could ever find his way out of the woods, you know. So that's it. So that was real transition for me to kind of give up that normal path, that expected thing, like being hyper successful, you know, in the corporate world at a young age, but it didn't fulfill me. And so that's it. That was all I needed.
How do you stay grounded now? Is Shawn a part of that? Because
I don't know that man is on the ground. I think no, 100%, because we're a team, you know what I mean? So for sure, like if one of us is whatever, the other one's always there, and we are great in terms of being a sounding board for one another. I think it's just knowing who I am, honestly. I think because then when people kind of blowing smoke up your ass, excuse the term, it's very Australian, but you know, you just know, you know that it's for whatever reason, like, you know, that they're trying to get something out of you or whatever it is, and you don't, it's about not believing the hype. I think keeps you grounded in this town, because if you buy into it, then you're off, you know.
Oh my God.
And I've seen it particularly like Shawn had done a commercial, and there were kid actors on the set, and he was just telling me like how much they were being catered to. And at 7 years old, you could already see that they, you know, they had these inflated egos because everyone was just catering to them. And I don't, you know, that's not a way to go about living your life, because not everybody's going to be serving you, you know, water with a straw in it so you don't mess up the makeup. You know?
Wow.
Right. It almost sounds like you did a lot of the work, like the mental health work
Mhm.
prior to being in Los Angeles, right? So there's almost like you prepped yourself, maybe without realizing it,
Yeah.
perhaps. Maybe.
Yeah, oh,
It's
totally. Well, no,
yeah.
I actively went searching for it though, and this is, you know, this will be a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
I know we got 5 minutes,
Yes.
but I took a year and I kind of traveled the world, you know, like, because like I said, we'd bought a house together young, and so like
Yeah.
I had assets, so money wasn't really a concern. And
Mhm.
I quit my job. I came here for 3 months. I went back to Australia. I knew I was working on my visa, so I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? So I went to India for a month with a life coach, acting coach here from LA, and did a lot of work there. And then I got back for 3 weeks, and then I went to Egypt for almost another month.
Wow.
And did a lot of work there. And I just, you know, I knew I needed to get complete with myself before I could come and be in LA 100%.
Yeah.
And so I did. I took that year was like my spiritual, you know, like going back to Eat, Pray, Love. When I read that book, I'm like, oh my God, that's my journey. It was just different places, you know, like it was India and LA and Egypt, but it was the same kind of thing. I just was finding myself in amongst the life you find yourself in.
I love
love it.
that. There is so much more that we would love to chat with you about. We want to be mindful of your time that you have given us and the time that you want to continue to provide us, but maybe in a follow-up conversation, which we would be happy to have. But we would love that. So we've kind of started to change our questions up a little bit. And so Rachel kind of mentioned this earlier, which if you watch back, you'll see. But one thing that we'd love to ask you, and it's more themed around yourself, is what is juicier? Master Chef or Hell's Kitchen?
Come on, Hell's Kitchen.
That was Rachel, not me.
I know that was
Although having said that, MasterChef, I'm a big MasterChef fan too, I'm not gonna lie. Because that was more prevalent in Australia for a long time before it made it out here. Because I think it was British that went to Australia and then it came to the US. So I've definitely got a soft spot for MasterChef, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, and I gotta say though that in Australian reality shows, whether if it's production, if it's airtime, they are way more in depth, and the episodes are way longer. The series are like 60 episodes. Like
that's true.
Same with Survivor, like 14 episodes versus 25 episodes, and episode lengths at least an hour, sometimes an hour 15 minutes to actually get into it. So, I mean, on a kind of a lighter note, do you know why that is? Is that just strictly based on demand for airtime on a network or based on contracts? Because like you would think that there would be more balance, I guess.
Yeah, you know, I don't actually know, because actually part of what killed the Australian industry and why I moved to LA is because in the trade agreement that our Prime Minister had done with the US government, they committed X amount of airtime to US shows. So they actually agree to buying US content as part of the trade. You know, they're trying to sell wheat and buying entertainment as a trade-off, but it killed the industry for us. So actually, I don't know. I'm guessing it's because reality's a lot cheaper for producers. You know what I mean? Because you're talking about, you don't have to worry about union actors. You're talking about people they don't know their rights. They're not getting paid as much. Like, you know, as a general rule, they get paid pretty low wage at the time that they're filming. So I'm guessing that's probably more to what it's got to do with, but also too, I think Australian audiences get really engaged in the journey. You know, like I know that when because we went back to Australia to have Viva because the health system's functioning, and you know, there's a show called The Block, which is like a renovation competition show where they'll get like a cul-de-sac and buy like 5 houses, old houses on the same street, and then get teams competing to like renovate it. And so they'll do like a bathroom week and a master bedroom week, and you know, all these things.
Fun.
That show, I got Shawn so hooked on that show. He's like, we need to, and he's not that guy at all. He's like, I love this show, but you know, like these journeys again that you get so invested in. So yeah, I think it's a combination of those two things. The fact that Australians love to like kind of cheer someone on, and also, you know, cheap content versus producing like a drama or something like that.
There you go.
Absolutely. Oh, we could talk to you for hours and hours and hours.
No, I love to chat.
But the last thing is, and we'll put it in our show notes as well, how can people find you? And also when your book is going to be available, your trilogy. I mean, I would love to even get a copy. I want to know how and how we can find out about that.
Okay, so if you go on Amazon and just look up Alicia Antonio, and I'll send you all the links and stuff. But yeah, I'm on Amazon. That's where you can get all my books. You can follow me on Goodreads. Same thing on Instagram and Facebook. It's Alicia Antonio Books. That's ALICIA Antonio Books. So yeah, that's the best place to find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for gracing us and
Very
for all your
welcome.
continued support. And we are so excited to continue the dialogue and the relationship that is, blossoming before our very eyes.
I love you guys. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you.
Mwah.
Bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Alicia.